Pokemon contests were once a staple of the franchise. Throughout the Advanced Generation and Diamond and Pearl sagas, they were events that we saw alongside Ash's gym battles. Including grand festivals and unofficial contests, we saw over 40 different contests throughout their lifetime in the anime. Only the top 4 in AG and then the top 8 in DP performers who scored the highest in the performance stage would move on to the battle stage. Contest battles work similar to regular battles where both Pokemon are just fighting each other, but contest battles reward elegance and strategy as both teams have points and whoever has less points at the end of the timer loses. That, or if you faint, you just automatically lose. Today we're going to be breaking down the top 10 best contest battles in the anime. I won't be alone, as for 2025 I'll be having a special guest in one video per month. You can see my past collabs in the LUAPER and Friends playlist, but for today's guest, well, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, I'm Pickled Dill, and for those who don't know me, I mostly cover Pokemon What Ifs over on my channel. As part of that, I've spent a good amount of time studying how the anime formats things such as contest battles, as well as seeing which ones stand out as all-time greats and what makes them do so while others fall flat. But enough yapping about me, let's get on to what you're all here to see, which is the battles.
I want to make a quick note that these battles will not be in any particular order, just the best battles that are always fun to watch regardless of when you watch them. If you want me to make a video about the top 10 performances, then please let me know down below, but without further ado, let's take things into the spotlight.
Starting things off, we have May's very first contest battle in Slateport City. Though to her great misfortune, she finds herself paired up with a boy who will become her main rival throughout the AG series in the Battle Frontier, Drew. This battle goes a long way in setting up Drew as a Gary-like figure, further paralleling May's position at the beginning of her journey to Ash, who is now a veteran trainer, through the way in which the green-haired boy already has a strong understanding of his Pokemon, their moves, and the contest format in a way that May simply does not at this point in time. As a result, Drew remains in control throughout the battle, always foiling May's strategy and definitively establishing himself as the benchmark she will need to rise to if she wants to achieve her goals. However, in spite of this, May is not made to look like a fool or a jobber, as all the hard work she has put in with Beautifly throughout the season is apparent. It's simply a case of inexperience, as Ash and Brock are quick to point out. Furthermore, despite being a relatively short battle, it still has several moments of amazing visuals for which contests are renowned, namely that first close-up of Beautifly now sporting battle damage from Roselia's Magical Leaf, and when the Thorn Pokemon is charging up its Solar Beam. But, moving on from May's first contest battle, let's jump over to her last on-screen one.
The very first battle that I want to talk about is between Dawn and May. Not only was this a fantastic battle that had a lot of very good story implications as well, this was the finale of the Wallace Cup, which in itself is one of the best mini-arcs in the entirety of the Pokemon franchise. Fight me. But it was also the passing of the torch between May to Dawn. Unbeknownst to everyone, this would actually be the final appearance of May in a speaking role in the entirety of the anime due to her Japanese voice actress, which makes this battle even all that more sentimental. The battle itself was great, with Dawn using her ace Piplup and May using her newly evolved Glaceon. While many argue that May was in fact the better coordinator and battler at the time, and I would agree with them, it all really comes down to Dawn and Piplup's really strong connection already at this point in the anime. That and the fact that May was using a newly evolved Pokemon, which, yes, she had experience with Eevee, but not so much with Glaceon as it had just evolved in her return to Sinnoh. Coupled by the fact that this was a contest that was definitely skewed towards water Pokemon as they fought in a water battlefield, gave Dawn the clear advantage that they needed to win. That isn't to say that it was one-sided by any means, as May definitely pushed on really hard and it was a much needed victory for Dawn because she was on a huge losing streak up to this point. Not only was this a fantastic battle, but it was probably one of the best non-Ash storyline battles that we ever got.
However, if you want your Ash fix, then Ash vs Zoey in the Jubilife contest might be right up your alley. On top of being one of his most iconic contest showings, it also gives good insight into our hero as a character, since the reason he entered is because Apom expressed an interest in the contest and he wanted to support his friend. This saw him face off against main contest rival of the series, Zoey, with this showing going a long way to demonstrate her skill and power, as she's able to not only match Ash in terms of straight battling, but also unveil strategies that even have the boy who is known for his unconventional style reeling, such as when Apom's Focus Punch clashes with Glameo's Iron Tail, only for Zoey to have the caddy Pokemon extend its usually coiled tail to sock its fellow normal type in the jaw. As a result of this, Ash does ultimately lose, though he is left wiser, as he has a better understanding of the difference between contest and gym battles, as well as having his eyes open to new ways to use Apom's abilities, though that is not all the battle does well, as it also proves an important piece of foreshadowing for later events, as it is in the aftermath of the match that Zoey first proposes Dawn raise Ash's Apom, a suggestion that will come to fruition 43 episodes later, making this not only an important contest battle, but an important moment in the narrative of the Diamond and Pearl series.
Another really good battle on this list would be Brock vs May. If you don't remember, they battled in the finale of the Gardenia Pokemon contest. This was a fun episode in which Brock fell in love with a Pokemon coordinator named Yuma, and in order to win her heart, he entered in his very first Pokemon contest. With all of his experiences in battling, and also just being a good Pokemon breeder, he had a flawless time breezing his way into the finale. Awaiting him there was May, who really needed to win this Pokemon contest as well if she wanted to enter the Kanto Grand Festival. Unlike the last time that I spoke about May in her battle against Dawn, in which I think she should have won, in this case I think that Brock should have won here. Throughout their battle, Brock had the upper hand, and he has so much experience that he uses May's tactics against her, but at the end it was May who ended up winning on points. Truthfully, I really think Brock should have won this contest, but I can totally see why they had May win. Brock's losses didn't just stop there, because at the end of the contest, Yuma, the coordinator who he had fallen in love with, decided to take Molly under her wing. Molly was a different trainer that Brock had actually beaten in the previous round. That's 2 L's for Brocco, but he did have a really strong showing in his first Pokemon contest, which led to an amazing battle of back and forth moves between both Brock's Marshtomp and May's Eevee. Pretty interesting that May appeared twice on this list so far, and both times she was using her Eevee in battle.
Make that 3 times, as the next contest battle I want to discuss is the final on-screen showdown between May and her, in my opinion, greatest, rival Harley, during the Kanto Grand Festival. This is both coordinators at their best, with May using her Eevee and Munchlax while Harley goes with Old Faithful Cacturne and newcomer Wigglytuff. However, for once Cacturne is barely involved, as one of this battle's greatest strengths is its intense back and forth, as following a sneaky combo from Harley in which Cacturne strikes while everyone is looking at Wigglytuff, the Grass Dark type is knocked out in the opening salvo, leaving Harley with just 1 Pokemon. Luckily for him, Wigglytuff proves itself more than a match for May's duo, by using its status as the balloon Pokemon to fly around the stage avoiding attacks, and its long ears for some very unique double slaps, with a big part of what makes this contest so appealing being how it creatively uses Wigglytuff, and makes it into a real threat, when it is so often overlooked in favour of Jigglypuff. Ultimately though, May's Eevee and Munchlax use Wigglytuff's flying against it, by having their attacks hit each other and create shockwaves that blow Wigglytuff off course, and cause it to lose control of its flight, before finishing it off by having Eevee launch Munchlax, which allows it to land a focus punch that takes out Wigglytuff. By now, you may be wondering why I'm giving you a blow-by-blow of this battle, with the reason being quite simple. This choreography is a perfect encapsulation of the May-Harley dynamic, as despite hardships along the way, May's teamwork and earnest attacks win out against Harley, who is sneaky and only looks out for himself, with that in turn making this battle a perfect capstone for their rivalry.
Most of this list is going to feature Dawn or May, and that's obvious because they're the 2 contest performers that we followed throughout the series. Surprisingly, however, they weren't the only ones to showcase an amazing battle at the contest stage, no pun intended. Enter the Sinnoh Grand Festival, and in it we get to see an amazing quarterfinals battle between both Nando and Zoey. Both of these coordinators were rivals to Dawn, and seeing them face off in the quarterfinals was a great sight to see. It was a dull battle between the two, and they both utilized both of their Pokemon to their maximum potential. Zoey used her Miss Magius and Leafeon, and Nando used his signature Kricketune and Lopunny. They both came up with amazing strategies, both fought with their hearts out, and in the end it was Zoey who came out victorious. But seriously, even if you don't think this is a contest battle, this is just a fantastic double battle. It's one of those sleeper battles that you might have forgotten about, but when rewatching it, man does it really stand out. A lot of times rivals are kind of antagonistic, but neither of these trainers were, and it was just a nice, fun, heartfelt battle between the 2 of them.
Having covered the Kanto and now Sinnoh Grand Festivals, it only feels right to give some praise to the one that started it all, the Hoenn Grand Festival. And what better match to highlight than May and Drew's long-anticipated rematch on the main stage. This battle serves as a showcase for how far May has come as a coordinator, as now she understands all the things that caused her to lose in her first battle with Drew back in Slateport, and puts her learning to good use, as she manages to genuinely challenge her rival in several key moments, such as when Combusken's Fire Spin manages to push back a combined Solar Beam and Flamethrower, or more spectacularly, when Combusken uses Flygon's own Flamethrower to empower its Sky Uppercut, for a hit that still stands out as one of the single most epic attacks seen in a contest battle. Unfortunately, in the end, Drew does still manage to pull out a win by cleverly stalling May's final attack with Stun Spore, though it is clear that he has come to respect her as a fellow coordinator and rival, in a way that he never would have imagined he would when they first faced off at the start of her journey.
The next battle is often overlooked because it isn't a real contest, but I still think it's a fantastic battle nonetheless. I'm of course talking about the finale of the Terracotta contest between May and Ash. This was basically the finale of the Advanced Generation series, and it ended off splendidly. Ash and May both entered the contest and both quickly reached the finale, as this just takes place in a single episode. Ash brings his trusty Sceptile, while May brings her newly evolved Blaziken. We get to see the growth that May has made throughout her journey, as she has learned most of her battle tactics by watching so many of Ash's battles, and she was pretty on par with Ash. However, that being said, she did have the type advantage, and Ash showed why he's the main character by going toe-to-toe despite the type disadvantage. The conclusion of the battle was even fantastic, with the battle resulting in a tie, and then Sceptile cutting the ribbon so they can both have a memory of each other for the rest of their life. The battle was good, and Blaziken and Sceptile both proved why they were such strong Pokemon for both of them in the Hoenn region. What made this battle pure hype was when both Blaziken and Sceptile used their abilities and clashed ferociously. This is such an overlooked battle.
Another severely overlooked battle in an unofficial contest is Dawn vs Jessie during the episode Borrowing on Bad Faith. This is perhaps one of the strangest setups for a contest to date, as in it, Jessie of all people borrows Ash's Apom after rescuing it from danger, and most surprisingly of all, she didn't actually cause the danger like one would expect if this was a Team Rocket scheme. Instead, she simply wishes to borrow Apom due to the pair sharing a kinship, with Ash reluctantly allowing the team up. To Jessie's credit, she puts Apom's abilities and nature to good use in the battle that follows, devising a cheeky strategy in which Apom uses Double Team and holds onto the tails of its copies to create a ring that allows both an odd form of flight to avoid oncoming attacks and 360-degree swifts, which, might I add, have never looked better, with the CGI stars truly making the 2D scene pop, rather than detracting from it as they sometimes do. As a result, Jessie gets a well-deserved win, with this also being the only time she enters as herself rather than Jesselina or one of her many aliases. However, if all that still isn't enough to convince you, then consider this. Even the Nurse Joy judging the event calls this one of the best contest battles ever, and if you can't trust Nurse Joy, who can you trust?
Dawn vs Lila is another fantastic battle. I think what definitely carries this battle though is the story, and that's perfectly fine. When Lila was a coordinator, she managed to break Johanna's winning streak, becoming the first person to ever defeat Johanna in a contest battle. Of course, Johanna being Dawn's mom means that Dawn has all the pressure to avenge her. The battle was fantastic with Lila using Delcatty, which is a nice contrast to Johanna's Glameow, and Dawn using her Ambipom. Lila had great battle tactics like using Substitute, which is pretty rare in the anime, putting Ambipom to sleep with Sing, and even proccing its Q-Charm ability. In the end, after getting hit with the barrage of Swifts, she lost the points. Both normal Pokemon gave it her all, but in the end, Dawn was victorious. It was actually a win-win for both, as Dawn won avenging her mother, and Lila was able to get some closure on her coordinator career. Good job, girlies. Let us know which was your favorite contest battle that we missed in the comments below, and why you like it so much. Shout out to Pickle for joining me on this video. Subscribe to both of our channels for more Pokemon content on your feed. It's free. But for now, I've got a contest battle I gotta prep for, so I'm out. Peace.